All right, we are live. Hey guys, welcome back to the show on a special Sunday night live with my good friend Amanda Joan of Heart, who I met in 2018 at Dimensions of Disclosure, the same conference that I met my co-host Aaron at. He's not here tonight. He had some prior engagements that he couldn't get out of, so it'll just be a solo interview with Amanda and I this evening. She is a creator and founder of Awaken and Unite.com and Stripped Clean TV, TV with a purpose. And we'll get into what all that is. She's been at this for quite some time and she has an amazing story to tell. But before we get into all of that, first of all, welcome to the show, everyone. And secondly, we do have a few spots left for our conference in Hawaii on the Big Island. April 20th through the 24th. I just put the schedule out on the website. So if you guys are interested to see what that schedule is going to look like and how the week is going to play out, you can go to journeytotruth.online and find that. We're going to be going out on the water with the dolphins and whales. We're going to go to Volcano National Park, City of Refuge, some sacred sites, along with an amazing lineup of speakers and some other treats like nightly UFO tours with Lisa Thompson. She has military grade night vision goggles that she will be sharing with people. So we are looking very much forward to that. There's only a few spots left. Take advantage of that and grab your ticket today. If you can't make it in person, we do have live stream passes for only $55 on the website as well. And if you're interested in watching our brand new Secret Space program documentary, you can go to our Patreon and purchase it for $14.99, or you can wait for it to hit the streaming platforms in a month or two. It's a waiting game now. We're waiting for them to let us know when it gets accepted. So expect to see it on Amazon Prime, Roku, potentially Apple TV. We don't know which ones are going to pick it up, but we're excited and it is on its way to the streaming platforms. But if you can't wait or you don't want to wait, you can go to our Patreon or find it through our website, journeytotruth.online. That link is below. I think that's all the announcements I have. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Amanda. How's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. So happy to be on your show. Been
Yeah, I'm
waiting.
glad to have you. We met in 2018, like I said earlier. I didn't know who you were, you didn't know who I was, and you interviewed me and my dad at that first conference. And I thought it was strange because I was nobody. And when I say that, like I didn't even have an online presence. I was just there coming out of the woodworks of my old life and, poking my head out and meeting all these new people. And I don't know what guided you or prompted you to want to interview my dad and I, but it was actually a really special moment for me because it it made me feel like I had purpose. Like, oh wow, somebody actually is interested to hear what I had to say. So I really appreciate that, and I felt like that was kind of a motivating factor that kickstarted me on this journey. So thank you for that. I just wanted to officially thank you for that. But let everyone know who you are and how you found your way into this field and why you're doing this work that you're doing.
Well, my name is Amanda Joan Quimper. I go by Amanda Joan of Heart. I've had multiple spiritual experiences, including a vision from God to do a television show helping women transition out of sex trafficking. And that kind of really pushed me forward into documenting all of these movements in history that I have covered. Um, I, I've covered many movements in history are on my platform, awakenandunite.com. So I have a massive inside the opiate and heroin epidemic, because that went hand in hand with trafficking and I didn't know where to start. Went into the UFO and disclosure movement because of my spiritual experiences that I'll get to here later. Um, the spiritual uprising, what's happening to us. Went into the Republic and how to restore it, the Q movement, because all this ties together, into election fraud because Trump was pushing, helping traffic victims. I thought he was part of the solution and started documenting election fraud into the vaccines, into all of that crazy nonsense, uh, our judicial system, CPS and child trafficking, and so much more is on there. Um, we got the
So,
borders, all that stuff.
so basically, so your channel, your what you're doing with Awaken and Unite is exposing this stuff. Like you're creating like documentary style productions and like releasing this information, exposing something like election fraud, human trafficking, and all that stuff. And that has been, what year did you technically start doing that?
Ooh. Um, 2015, I started documenting the opiate epidemic, and then it went into the UFO in 2000 and I think 17. Um, but yeah, it's been a crazy adventure and a lot of rabbit holes. I didn't realize how deep this went. All that stuff is coming to fruition now and coming out of the closet. And I wish it wasn't true, but yeah, there's a lot of corrupt stuff going on. The swamp is deep and it's bridges are crashing right now. And
Yeah, that's so true. Honestly, with the re release of these Epstein files, it's not only true, it's in many cases worse than we thought. And it's like a shock, a culture shock for many people who haven't been into this stuff. I think at large, the files released everything we already knew on some level that we've been covering, not we as a collective, but like we on this channel, like we've kind of gone down most of those rabbit holes. So our audience might not be as shocked as maybe the average person, but nevertheless, the details are shocking and how deep it goes and how widespread it is. It's not just like a small little secret society at the top of the chain. We're talking about like a global trafficking ring and worse. So so your research into, I guess, looking into the opium and heroin epidemic led you to trafficking or discovering that these people were also traffic victims. Can you kind of explain what that journey was like and where you're at with it today?
ooh, you want me to start at the beginning? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you don't have to go into the whole thing, but just kind of like bullet point it for us, like how did you connect those dots?
Um, well, for me, a producer came in town and I was putting together a pilot for this TV show concept idea that I had had for years to help women in the in the sex trades and the trafficking and that. And he gets to my hometown, and we're in the heart of the heroin epidemic here in Ohio. And he's like, "You need to do the show about the heroin epidemic and then go into other modern moral issues, because it went hand in hand with sex trafficking." So he guided me to start documenting the heroin epidemic, and then I just didn't stop. I had all these other spiritual experiences and stuff. Um, so yeah, I don't know, like I could start at the beginning, but it's it's a kind of a long story to do in an hour, I guess. Um,
Well, if you think, just share what you think is important. I mean, if you feel like you want to go a different direction with this, I was just kind of curious because to me that's interesting. Like I feel like the way this has been all set up is, the cartel was in bed with, unfortunately, the politicians here in America, and they were allowing these drugs to be and humans to be trafficked in, and then they're allowing them to be distributed and getting people addicted so they can be put into these rehab facilities or insane asylums, these mental institutions, and then they easily be trafficked out of there. And it's such an interesting thing. It's well thought out. Unfortunately, these people are evil geniuses. And so, I mean, it's up to you if you feel like that's an important story to tell. We can do that, or if you have a different direction you'd like to go, that's fine as well.
um, yeah, I mean, I could start from there on, I guess, instead of like my whole history growing up. My mom was kind of my inspiration as a child. She would do boot camps for women and people and help them inspire people. So showed me what a ripple effect can do growing up. And I put myself through college, went out to California, had my first ghost experience out there. I was at the Roosevelt Hotel in California, and I heard I was in the penthouse suite where Marilyn Monroe used to stay, and I heard a voice whisper in my ear, my name, Mandy, and kind of spooked me. So then I realized that there was a lot going on spiritually. I'd already, she already inspired my mom, and had inspired me and got me into spiritual, books on archangels and angels. And I was always into God and just wanted to know more about God throughout my life. Um, when I was out in California, I actually set foot on a lot of places that are being found out today. I went to the Playboy Mansion. I guess there's underground tunnels there. Been to the Getty Center. There's underground tunnels there. All that crazy stuff I found out, years later. But it's like just wild how, our walks in life in these weird divine timelines that we can get on. Moved home. Um, got in the 2 years I was gone um, in California, I moved home, and a lot of my friends and even some of my family members were on heroin. I unfortunately went down that walk in life and followed those footsteps and got addicted myself. Um, Wanted to know how I could help my friends and family get out of it, and I really didn't understand it. Um, and I pretty much played Russian roulette trying to save some of my family members and my friends. Um, God started showing me things in my addiction to drugs, how people were getting hijacked by lower energies and entities, shadow beings in particular. I had a friend that would get hijacked by this shadow being that looked like the Grim Reaper, and he would snap and not be himself and be attacking me. And I didn't realize it until later when I watched it hover within his body and sit within him, and he just like turned into a completely different person. Um, had a lot of ghost experiences. Um, Woke up with a little girl pulling my hair one night on Halloween night. Didn't realize how satanic and dark Halloween is, and the spiritual realm is very thin on that day. My birthday is November 2nd, which is All Souls Day. So there's or the Day of the Dead, they call it. It's holiday. So from Halloween night to my birthday is a gateway where the veil is very thin. Um, I, yeah.
So let's rewind just slightly because this is interesting to me. So you think the drugs open up a doorway, a gateway to allow these entities in, and you literally watched one of these hover above your friend and enter his body?
Yeah, that these were different whole experiences. But yeah, the one day I remember holding a wine glass up next to him and I could see it in the wine glass, but it was just this little thing in the wine glass. I didn't realize how real it was until later. And then um
You
in
saw
the
what
wine
in the
glass,
you saw what in the wine glass
it
exactly?
looked like something in a robe with a rope around its stomach. Um, and in the wine glass is a brown robe with a rope around its stomach. I don't know if this is some kind of reptilian entity or whatever. But later, no, completely another day and time, he's well, the first time it happened, he snapped and had me up against the wall. I have had this still small voice that's kind of guided me throughout my life. I call it, God or maybe my higher self, but it told me to hit him over the head. There was something on the bathroom counter, and I whacked him over the head with a mirror. And he snapped back into himself, and he's like, "Oh, we're cool, we're cool." I'm like, "What do you mean we're cool? You're just attacking me a second ago. You were in my face." what do you mean we're cool? That wasn't you, at all. And then completely another day, I'm standing in his doorway of his room. I let him rent a room in my house at the time, and he was sitting in the couch, and all of a sudden, he's drinking and getting high on cocaine, and um, all of a sudden, I see this black shadow being, it looked like a perfect silhouette of the Grim Reaper just sit within his body. And then he snapped and started like attacking me like I'm the police and real paranoid and, starting a fight with me for no reason. And I was like, you better pray to God and the Archangel Michael right now. I said, this thing's jumping in your body. It's making you act like a lunatic. I'm the last time I had to hit him over the head, I was like, I can't fight this. This is God's battle. I grabbed my keys in my purse and I ran out of my house when I realized I was going, and I was driving down the road and praying for him. And within 5 minutes, he calls me, bawling his eyes out, crying, going, Mandy, what's going on, Mandy? There's tears falling down my face, Mandy. What's going on? And I was like, I told you this thing's jumping in your body, making you act like a lunatic. You don't understand, Mandy. I don't cry. Why are there's tears falling down my face, Mandy? What's going on? And he didn't know. Like he is not conscious at all of his behavior. So I think that's why a lot of people have the blackout drunks and stuff because they're getting hijacked,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I've had experiences back in my drinking days that kind of made me realize that there's a reason they want you to black out because they're loose farming, loose harvesting, and they're embodying you and taking advantage of whatever they can. So it's a very sad and scary thing. So okay, you started seeing these type of truths. We gonna say something?
Yeah, I'll just keep going, I guess.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened. A lot of other things happened. I would always, could feel stuff around me lurking, and but I'd always be praying because I loved God, and I knew, there was a God. I felt like there was a God. And then he started just showing me all this other stuff, like not just in my addiction, but even after I got out of it, so much more beautiful things that are happening, which I'll get into. But yeah, my addiction was really rough. It took multiple times to get off of drugs. Remember my mom made me come to her house the first time I got sober. Um, Went to her house, prayed, God, make this easy, please let me be resurrected in 3 days like Jesus, God, I did this out of the love of my heart to help my friends, that's how I felt, because I didn't know how to help them. And he, my mom had prayed to Archangel Raphael on the third day after praying for 3 days to resurrect and be made new. On the third day, an aura of emerald green light appeared, hovering over me. My mom was driving in a car to my grandmother's house, and this aura appeared, hovering over me. I was like in layers of clothes, sweating profusely, really sick from detoxing off of these drugs. And on that third day, after I saw that and asked my mom if she prayed to Raphael, Archangel Raphael, because I knew that he appeared in an aura of green light, she looked at me funny and looked back and was like, how did you know? And I was like, because the whole ride to grandma's, this aura was in the car with me. Um, I went home that night, went to take a bath. I heard the words, get a pen, in this still small voice, not like I'm under mind control, because I do know about the targeted individual stuff. It was like, it's the still small voice that has protected me only in really important times of my life. And I went and got a pen and I wrote this beautiful poem about Jesus, and I felt completely healed that day. Um, and I was. And unfortunately, I went back home. I lasted about 3 months and went back out and used. Addiction is not an easy thing to tackle. Um, I have almost died, I'm sure, many times. Uh, Wound up in, the hospital on Easter Sunday, like my neurological system quit working, my jaw's going crazy, my like ruined Easter Sunday. I mean, a lot of not good things come from that. So learn
Wow.
from other people's mistakes. Don't make these mistakes yourself, please. But yeah, I crazy stuff in my addiction. I remember my body levitating to the ceiling 3 times. And one of my friends that I was trying to help get off of drugs, actually, it's a close family member, was upstairs. My something was telling me something was up in my upstairs and kept levitating me to the ceiling. I kept rubbing the ceiling. I was like in sleep paralysis, but my eyes were open. I could see the ceiling. I could move my hands, but nothing else. And I kept touching the ceiling on every time. And I went upstairs and found my family member up there, messed up on crack, cocaine, and just weird stuff was going on for sure. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
got off of drugs and for the third time, was 6 months clean, and off of Suboxone because I did do 6 months of Suboxone, getting off of Oxycontin, and was shown a full out, was asking God what my purpose was, why I was here. I had this TV show idea to help women in the sex trades and in trafficking. When I went to California, I packaged a treatment to do a TV show to help these women. And my question was, what is my purpose? Why am I here? And should I still do this TV show idea that I have, this strong knowing I'm supposed to do this show? That's all I know is this, I'm supposed to do this show. It's very just strong. I don't know how else to explain it. And can you please reveal more to me than, there's this strong knowing I have. Can you please let me see more with my eyes so that I can see, this? And I laid back and took deep breaths after asking God this out loud in my bathtub, and was literally shown a full out clip of the future, like wide awake. Like I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't, it was wide awake. And I could see I was looking through my own eyes. I could see a group of women lined up in front of me, like on The Bachelor or those format reality shows you see on TV with on the bleachers. They all had brown hair and a nice olive skin tone. And to my right was a big picture window, and all I can see out this window was water. So, um, I could hear every word I was saying in this vision. It was basically saying, "We're here to help you," in the nicest words. We're here to help you change your life for the better because whatever you're doing is not in integrity, and we're here to help you.
Wow.
And I jumped out of the bathtub after this vision from God and was like, yes, now I know what I'm supposed to do, and I never looked back. I got off of drugs for good and started documenting all these movements in history. And yeah, I'm glad that God showed me my purpose because, you know,
I think we're all glad because you're doing a great job. And, like I said, you were not messing around when I met you in 2018. I mean, you were on mission. You had that camera, you had your little forms, you were just getting everything documented. And, here you are. It's 2026 now. And look at you, you really built yourself and your product and company and everything. So congratulations on that. And somebody, Mystifying Mark, asked in the chat if we're going to be taking questions. Sure, if you have a question, just leave it in the chat and we'll get to it. That's not a problem at all. And yeah, so that's so interesting to me. Like there is a difference. You mentioned earlier about like hearing a voice that's God and then hearing like a targeted individual, like voice of God technology type of voice. And there is a big difference. And I know there's some people out there that say don't trust anything that you hear, but sometimes like this inner guidance system that I think is genuine and pure. And if we don't listen to that, we might end up, going down the wrong path. So maybe explain, I don't know if you've experienced the other type of voices like the direct energy weapons, but so well, I guess that makes it easier then. If you haven't experienced the actual voices from the technology, then this is something that's been with you since you were a child. I think that's important to highlight because um, we all have, like, that's that gut feeling, this intuition. We all have that within us. It's trying to be our guiding light. So Explain maybe a little more about what that's like, and do you still hear these voices?
Yeah, I thank God don't have the out loud voices. I do know people that do, and it's very frustrating. I try to reach out and help a lot of those people. I try to bring awareness to that, and I want to understand a lot of these people with mental disorders and things are targeted individuals, unfortunately, and they do say some extreme things in your head. I mean, they just make you crazy. They talk about the most dirtiest things in your head and try to make you think stuff, whether it's spiritual warfare for a lot of people or they're targeted individual and or it's a mental disorder. It's a lot of discerning with this stuff because you got to now discern what's technology and what's not. Um, yeah, I think mine is more of an internal God source voice that has protected me in really important times. One of the times, it told me my brother was going to die. And I think that's why intercessory prayer and stuff is so important. When it told me that, I just pleaded with God, protect my brother for the next 3 hours. And he literally dodged bullets that night when he was his third time out of rehab, went to a drug dealer's house to get stuff and 3 round robbers came in with guns and 3 rounds were unloaded and two were dead and two were in critical condition and he said a bullet grazed his ear like Trump pretty much.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's the power of prayer is really important. I believe because of that. So
So where are you at today with all this? I mean, I know this has been a massive, like you said, everything's connected. I've seen you at these UFO conferences, but you're covering this other really important stuff too, and it all ties together. And we're finding that out. They release these Epstein files, and within those files, there's not just talks of all this trafficking and satanic ritual abuse and these horrible crimes against humanity, but there's talks of UFOs, extraterrestrials, time travel, human cloning. I mean, soul tracking, soul monitoring. This is all stuff that no one was expecting to see in the files, but it's there. And it's proof to me that it's all connected. So where are you today with this and your journey and what you're doing with Awaken and Unite TV or .com?
um well, there's a lot going on with the Epstein files and that, unfortunately. Unfortunately, a lot of these companies that he was the CEO of are still running. That's some intel for you. They're still running and there's still money going through these organizations, and every month there's money going through them, and this money's going to outlets like Facebook, Instagram, Wayfair. Um, so a lot of bridges still need to crash, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I mean, it's just the beginning. It's the beginning of this. It has to start somewhere.
Mhm.
And this is how it starts, right? Like they're not just freely getting away with it in the background anymore. Everyone's got hawk eyes now. Everyone is like looking very closely at everything and everyone involved. So it's not going to happen overnight. There's an order of operations, and they're still going to try and save face and maintain whatever network that they still have because that's their survival, unfortunately. So I think that yeah, there's money being moved and funneled and trafficked to people still, but at the same time, I think it's all being monitored too because they can't like just arrest anyone without actual evidence. So they kind of let this happen, and then they have double and triple agents, and I think they're gathering intel, evidence, and when the time comes, then they'll have what they need. So, I mean, that's just a theory, but it's plausible. Um, what I think is interesting too is that you can see the statistics. I looked at a few different charts. So basically, when Trump started taking out these cartel boats and closing the border and all this stuff, the overdoses and the suicide rate has dropped off substantially because it's basically cutting off the supply for the people in the streets as far as the drugs aren't as readily available, and therefore people can't get their fix, and they're not overdosing. They have to find new ways. So, what are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you've paid attention to that, but what are your thoughts on that?
Um, it's really sad. I covered a lot of the heroin epidemic. I did a lot of marches and rallies on that. So I have a 37-part documentary on Inside America's opiate epidemic, which my goal is to try to get it into rehabs and jails nationwide as a program to help people with addiction because there's not a lot of programs out there. There's basically church AA and that's about it. So we need more outlets, we need more resources to fight, the battle with addiction. It is very sad, back then, 100,000 are dying a day. I don't know where it's at with the fentanyl. I'm sure it's not much better. Um, but yeah, yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah,
But
I meant like your thoughts. I don't know if you paid attention to these statistics, but the last few months or even year, they've dropped off substantially as far as like there was these overdose
yeah,
deaths and
that's good.
suicides. It was going up, and then all of a sudden, since basically their supply has been cut off, it's literally they can see the data, and it's just dropped off tremendously. So not as many people are experiencing this anymore, and I think it takes time, but actually, it's for once in history, the issue is being, or the issue is being
Somehow that was
addressed. I
border
couldn't think of
to
the word.
border.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thank God. It's about time something needed to give, man. I mean, this is silent weapons for quiet wars, This is a war we're in. This should have been dealt with a long time ago. For years I fought with this. I'm glad it's finally something's coming to fruition here with that whole thing. That's ridiculous.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think I was at the I was in the could go into where I went after addiction and all the good stuff that started happening, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, let's do that. But I want to ask a question first from the chat, and then we can go
Okay.
into the more positive stuff. So, from Mystifying Mark, question, Amanda, please give more details how Hugh Hefner's mansion connected to the underground tunnels and what you saw there. I don't know if you actually saw the tunnels or you learned about that later.
Okay, so somebody invited me they told me the Playboy Mansion. I went to this one place. It was some mansion that Hefner owned. Um, I had was worked at a dinner dance theater out there and was a dancer when I was out in California. And when I went to this mansion, these guys were standing outside of it, and I was supposed to be going to a Playboy Mansion party. And I was like, this isn't Hefner's house, I'm looking at this house. And they showed me on a tablet, like tablet. Um, these girls upstairs doing dances for people. And they were like, you can go up there, you can make like, a bunch of money right now, And I'm like, I didn't come here to work, what the fuck is going on? Came here for a party, And I was like, no, I ain't doing that. I had a bad feeling like they were probably gonna try to traffic me. So I was like, no, I'm leaving. I'm not, I came here to go to a party. This is not a party. What's going on? So I left. It was really weird because shortly after that, I went to Hollywood. I was eating lunch at in Hollywood at a restaurant outside, and there was a man at a table next to me, and we started talking, and he told me he was Hugh Hefner's best friend. And, I can go to the Playboy Mansion if I wanted to. We could have dinner with Hugh Hefner and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, I told him the story about my first experience with this, and he's like, oh no, this is the real deal, da 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 da. So I went on a Sunday night. Me and him had dinner with Hugh Hefner. We had like our own table and like their like dining room area. Hefner was with his girls at a bigger table, and his girls were like surrounding him. And we had this awesome, like, you know, 5-course dinner or something. And then we all watched a movie in his theater room, and it was like an old black and white movie, and we all watched this movie together, and they like had like pillows and comfortable stuff to like get comfy, and we all watched this movie. He took me on a whole tour of the Playboy Mansion. When we got to the library, he opened up the library, this bookshelf. It like opened up and it was stairs that went down to something. And he was showing me, look at this is a secret passageway. Look here. And he was showing me that. And I'm like, whoa, cool. You know, whatever. And I knew like I had been offered to be a cyber girl and this and that, but I never, although I was a dancer, I would never wanted to do any kind of, photography or any kind of nude stuff like that or anything like that, even though probably I would have got a bunch of money or whatever, but I knew that I probably would be trafficked and have to have sex with him or something to get that far or whatever. So I, always was a good person. I always had morals. I was raised right, I guess you could say. And I found out later that that bookshelf where those stairs were, I met a girl that worked for, not worked, but she was a part of the Disney, one of the Disney stars, one of the first Disney. So she was in the Mickey Mouse Club. That's what it was. She's in the Mickey Mouse Club, and she said that she has been down those stairs, and it's all women are bunch of trafficked women are down in that tunnel. And then I found out later from Edge of Wonder, that that tunnel runs right to the CIA headquarters and yada yada. So that was interesting to find that out years and years later. But yeah, there's definitely tunnels there. I saw the steps that go downstairs to that, and it's pretty narrow steps. But she said that would have ruined my life if I would have went down there. She said your life would have been destroyed.
Wow.
So I'm glad that I didn't go down those stairs or whatever or anything. I made it clear that I had a boyfriend, to this guy that was Hefner's best friend, and I had a boyfriend back home, and I was doing the long distance thing, and that I wasn't doing anything weird, with anybody. So I think that kind of saved me. But yeah,
Yeah, you were definitely, I think you were shown that for a reason, and you also were protected from that. I think that everything's divinely orchestrated there. And now here you are, and it makes so much more sense to you now, understanding what this world really is and this network. So you got to see firsthand evidence of that. And thank you for sharing that. Thanks for the question, Mark. So I guess we can move into some of the other stuff that you wanted to get into. This story actually started getting pretty positive for you, and things turned around. So maybe you can cover some of that.
yeah. So I moved home. I went through the addiction, got off the drugs, and moved out of my house there, moved into a rental property, and um, I got heartbroken by a guy I was really kind of devastated over. Started going to church like crazy, like all the time. Started going to this church in Ohio that does prophetic ministry and healing and believes in all the healing and the prophetic stuff, and started taking all their classes that they had to offer, praying to Jesus and all that stuff. And God started showing me stuff. Um, I woke up with the Star of David hovering over my bed. Um, I found out, and it's like God will show me these things or source or whatever you want to call that. And then I'll be revealed within synchronicity within, days or weeks or months sometimes what this stuff even is. But when I saw that, the Star of David hovering in my room over my bed, just like going in and out, kind of like a spacecraft, like hovering over me, taking up my whole room. It was beautiful. It was like sparkles of different colors of light in this Star of David. Um, uh, when I woke up with this Star of David, I was sleeping, woke up wide awake. My whole body was vibrating to the core, like I was getting a massive download or something. And I fell back asleep, woke up again, and it was the five-pointed star, looking the same way, doing the same thing. It was face up, not upside down, and it was going in and out, in and out. And I guess the five-star pointed star means stuff like ether, water, air, fire, stuff like that. Um, the next day, and when I woke up with that star, I was still vibrating from the inside out, like to the core, this vibration feeling I don't know how to explain. But and next day I was revealed that it had to do with the Seal of Solomon and the Ark of the Covenant opening. And
Really?
so I'm like, okay, what the heck, what's this? Then let me make sure I don't forget anything. Uh my shoes at this church, I went to one of their soaking in the presence of the Lord ceremonies this church ever had. And I went to this church and we were praising and worshiping God. And then everybody kind of like found a spot around the room to like sit or lie down and kind of soak in the presence of God. And so I went and found a spot and laid down away from everybody and was praying and meditating or whatever, and got back up. And this church is carpeted floors. Got back up, singing, dancing, praising God again, and then we all left the church. Well, I go to leave the church, and I had to grab the railing leaving the church, and my feet were like slipping and sliding on the stairs of the church stairs. And I looked at the bottom of my shoe, which I had brand new running tennis shoes on with like half-inch treads, and they were covered in oil, both of my shoes, like covered in oil. And I'm like, oh my God, something anointed my feet with oil. I went 2 flights down to the bathroom and was like, I wish I would have saved some of this oil or put it aside or something. But instead, I was like so excited. I'm like ice skating across the bathroom floor from like literally sliding across the bathroom floor from side to side, going, oh my God, something has anointed my feet with oil. I was
Hmm.
like, I got what I was asking for this, because I've always asked for the more that God was pouring out. And uh so that happened. It's kind of prophetic stuff like happening to real people. I didn't think anything like this could happen, but I had heard, stories about the spiritual stuff going on in churches and whatnot. And I went to the church the following week and I pulled one of the really prophetic people that I had trusted in the church aside and I said, We did you guys put oil on our shoes last Wednesday night? And he was like, no, ma'am. He's like, that'd be a lawsuit. Like, we can't do that. And I'm like, well, my feet were miraculously anointed with oil. I'm like, and he's paused for a minute and he goes, I feel that's a call to evangelism for you, ma'am. And I'm like, evangelism? What is that? I
Hmm.
didn't even really know.
Right.
And yeah, then uh just all these other stuff started happening. I woke up and saw light tunnels that haven't been open since Atlantis one night, letting my dog outside, these beautiful golden tunnels of light. One was over the roof of my house. You could fit a car in it. It was that one was big. There's other ones. That one was horizontal across the earth. There's other ones about the size of a manhole cover or so that I could see in different locations that were like coming out of the ground diagonal into the sky. The next day I was revealed light tunnels are being reopened up that haven't been open since Atlantis. So when it says, in the Bible, there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth, well, it's here. It's coming online again. The earth is becoming multidimensional again and awakening, and so are we. And so that's why, the Star of David and these things are happening to us, I believe, from my definitive truth and opinion. Um, I had the sun one day talk to me. I asked about Jesus, and literally the sun started talking back. And I'm like, I was just asked Jesus, can you reveal more to me about yourself? Driving down the road, and all of a sudden the sun, like telepathically, very clearly, just caught my attention and just started saying something, and I'm like, oh, I get it. You're the son of God, ha ha. And I made a joke, but I didn't realize how like it's literal too. And Jordan Maxwell and people like that are uncovering that the sun has a lot to do with Jesus. So and then you got Jesus means hail Zeus, the sun god. So you got all that. It's it's
Yeah,
very deep.
that's fascinating to me too because we hear planets themselves are conscious beings and stars and like and they you can connect with them, right? And even communicate. So that I feel that. And that actually makes more sense to me understanding that there really is like this Christ connection with the sun because one of the popular online theories is that the sun isn't really real. Like it's like this, this kind of flat Earth narrative where we literally interviewed somebody that tried to tell us that the sun was a light fixture with light bulbs, and they saw one of the bulbs out one day, and it's just this belief that's going around online, but that would literally undermine any connection that the sun has with Christ, right? And Jesus. So and being this conscious being that you can telepathically communicate with. So I think that's a beautiful message and experience that you had.
And at the time, I'm always trying to get, 20 minutes to sunlight a day, around daily. I hike a lot, getting in flow with, you know, the kingdoms of God, the elements, the plants, the animal kingdoms, all that connects and we're connected to. It's very important to get out in nature and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that story. Um,
Yeah.
well,
And then
go ahead. It seems like you have more to tell, and this is fascinating. So please continue.
yeah. So having all these experiences, God showed me this stuff. I'm like, started to try to talk to the people in the church about it. Oh boy. Um, and they were like my good friends. I was going to church like 3 times a week, taking all these classes. And I'm like, I got to tell my friends about the Star of David and how God's showing me all this stuff. And I started telling the people in the church about this stuff. And they're like, oh no, everything's the enemy pretty much. And, that's all the enemy. I'm like, wait a minute, this is totally biblical. This is a Star of David. This is, Jesus is this, the bloodline of David. All this stuff is, you know, biblical. What do you mean this is all the enemy? What are you talking about? I'm praying in Jesus' name, everything. Like this, the enemy, I don't give consent to. Sorry, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, um, God showed me like a man in a box. I remember crying out to him, just like, why can't you show my friends what you're showing me? Like, they love you, God. Like, I want help them. They want to know this stuff too. And he showed me a picture like of a rectangular box and a man inside this box. And this man was so afraid to step his foot outside of this box that he basically doesn't go nowhere. He just stays in this box and or program. And then he showed me the word complacent. And then this overwhelming, like almost an anger came over me that I felt from God. And then he said, Jesus weeps for the people in the church. And I'm just like, holy crap. Like,
That's
so
powerful. Wow.
yeah, it's like it's sad. So like we got to get out of the box, We're so programmed. If we really love God and Jesus and these things, let's figure out where this Bible came from, where it came from before it came from the Roman Catholic Church and was, censored and cherry picked and everything else. And let's look at the other books of the Bible that were taken out. You got the Ethiopian Bible with 88 books, and then I think we only have 66 in the Bible we have now. So there's a lot missing, and it's all about how we're empowered and greater, the kingdom is within you, not outside of you. Jesus is within you, the kingdom is within you. God is within and through all things. And that's another thing he showed me, a rainbow that connects us to God. There's this source and force that is this multi-dimensional thick cord rainbow that is attached to us that goes to the heavens. Maybe this is the new covenant, that God is talking about or whatever, but those cords connect you to Jesus and the archangels and all that. So I found out later each stream, connected you to the different archangels. The purple and green cord connect you to Mother Mary and Jesus and stuff. So it's an intense thing. Yeah, I had to experience.
Yeah,
But
absolutely beautiful message. I love it. I love all of it. It's spot on. Yeah.
so it's literal. God is within and through all things. And that's how, we're working in divine uh together as a collective now. We're all connected to that rainbow. In the Native American text, they called us the Rainbow Warriors, and the 144,000 were called in the Bible, and the Children of the Light were called in the Emerald Tablets. And there's different names, but I think these things all kind of uh, are kind of in a way maybe the same thing, just saying it different ways.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, so and then I started having all these other experiences, started saw a blue avian out my bedroom window. At the time I was trying to astral travel and know where my soul was going at night and wanted to know what I was doing in my dream time and just had that intention out there. And I woke up. You ever have a falling dream where you're falling through a black hole or whatever?
Oh yeah, falling off a cliff. That one, I've fallen off a cliff many times in my dreams. It's
And
strange.
then you wake up and you're like, what?
You wake up and your heart's beating out of your chest. Yeah.
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 Yeah, so I had a falling dream and I woke up and I was like, knew at the time it's kind of like when you're coming back into your body is when you're falling. So I was like, yes, I was astral traveling. And I was like really in a high vibration, like I did it. I don't know what I was doing or what, but I know I did something. And I looked out my window and saw a blue neon face, shape of a human head, but it had a beak for a nose. It was the perfect depiction of what Corey Goode in the Gaia picture of Ratier.
Yeah, the blue avian. Yeah.
It looked exactly like that being, but its eyes glue like ruby pink, fiery, diamond-like. And it talks about in the Bible something about God's eyes glowing like fire too, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, it was see-through, so it wasn't physical. It was made of light, and I was looking at it, and it was staring at me, and we were just staring at each other for like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna go back to bed. It's not bothering me. I'm not intimidated. I feel no fear. I was in a high vibration and in love. And I went back to bed. 2 days later, I'm revealed about Corey Goode and all about the blue avians and stuff and how they're here as angelics here to help us raise our consciousness and stuff. Then I was revealed that in Ashiana Dean's book, Voyager's books, I haven't read the whole book, unfortunately. I haven't really had time. I've been doing so much, but it talks about the avians, and they had like a bunch of different names for the avian beings, and it said that one of their primary purposes is to guard and protect the horizontal ley lines that run east to west. Well, the one over the roof of my house at the time ran east to west. So, and the avian appeared in my bedroom window right underneath of it.
Right.
Um, so I'm like, okay. That all is tied together. That's pretty wild. But yeah,
Yeah, and I was just recently in Egypt in March of last year now. Wow, it's already almost been a year. Um, they the sites that still have paint. Some of the temples and the sites we went to are still painted, especially up high. The vandalism couldn't, they couldn't really deface them. So you still see the color, and there is very clearly in many places depicted these blue bird beings, these blue avian beings. They still painted blue, and I don't believe they just chose the random color blue to paint them. I believe that's probably how they actually appeared in Egypt.
yeah. And then you got all the blue beings in the other religions. The Krishna in Hinduism is blue. a lot of those Hindu beings are always blue. Yeah, and then Mother Mary and Jesus. One of them always says blue. Normally it's Mother Mary, I think. But yeah.
Wow. All
And
right. So what's next?
then I got the reptilians. Oh God.
Yeah, but
So,
we have to see it all. We have to understand what we're up against, what we're involved with here. So yeah, so you encountered reptilians?
well, so I went to the grocery store one day to go grocery shopping, and my whole matrix reality was shattered at that point. When some lady, an older woman, thicker, she was about my height, dropped something in front of me, went to pick it up, and as she picked it up, she looked me square in the eyes, and she had light sky blue eyes, and she had slits for pupils. And it wasn't like Halloween or anything. And I'm like trying not to react. My head's going back, like, what the heck is this? And I heard that still small voice say reptilian. And I'm like, I look away and I'm like, just carry on and go to the next aisle over, get away from this lady. I'm literally like doing circles in the aisle going, what the freak out? Now I got to learn about the reptilians. What the heck? Like they're amongst us. Like this is human hybrid reptilians now going on. Like, whoa. So how do we know who's human and who's not? Like, so that was a interesting experience.
So this
And
was just a normal shopper, just like an average person?
yeah, just a normal person. And that's when, I mean, I was revealed. Then I had to go down the rabbit hole of reptilians, and I had to learn
Mm-hmm.
'cause that was one subject I didn't want to learn about. I was like, nah, I'm going to learn about the other stuff, but I don't want to learn about the reptilians. I don't want to believe that. I don't want to bring it into my reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just never got into it until after that point. I kind of had to listen and learn.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I was just gonna say something. Yeah, I've actually twice on two separate occasions saw somebody's eyes turn, well, three actually. One was in person. I've literally seen someone's eyes do that. Another one was in a photo, and then another one was on TV, which was, I'll just say, I've said it in many interviews, Kate Blanchett, the actor, she was on the Kelly Clarkson show, and I saw her eyes shapeshift on the show while I was watching it in real time. So, um, it's more common, unfortunately, than I think. They walk amongst us. I mean, we're potentially hybrids or mutts. I mean, who knows what we're really made of? But I think people carry more prominent lineages, right? They're more prominent in one like aspect of maybe reptilian or even like a Nordic type of being. I think we're all are a combination of many. So yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it was eye-opening. Then had a dream about a, I had another night I woke up, or not woke up, I was dreaming. I had a dream about in this dream I stood up, I was in my room, I stood up next to my bed, and I could see a spaceship through my roof of my ceiling. And I stood up in my dream and was like, I gotta send out my light and love. I gotta send out my light and love. And I was trying to send out love. And then you could see a golden beam, kind of like the golden light tunnels that I saw, coming down from the spaceship to beam me up. And then I woke up and I don't remember anything. Anyways, after this dream, I just thought, it was a dream or whatever. But 2 days later, again, I run across Billy Mayer's work, and I literally saw the exact to a T spaceship that was in my dream. And I was like, holy crap. I was being beamed up by a Pleiadian spaceship is what it was. And then Billy Meyer, how do you say that?
Meyer, yeah.
Meyer. Um, he talks about the Pleiadians. He's been working with them for 15 years. He, goes on to talk about how he can't be beamed up unless he's in a high enough vibration. They would have to beam him up in the middle of like cooking in the kitchen because he would get too nervous and it would ruin the technology if you're not in a high enough state. So that would make sense as to why I was like, I gotta send out my love, or
Hmm.
whatever.
Right.
So, and you see, 1,600 paintings of Jesus with spaceships with humans that look like us in them, next to his crucifixion on the cross, and next to, you see other ships and things that, his birth in the manger and all that. So he obviously was working with some type of extraterrestrial forces from those ancient paintings that we maybe should look at,
Yeah. I mean, that's ancient aliens 101 there. I mean, it's everywhere in our history, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now let's see, pretty much getting close to the end of the spiritual stuff. Uh, I had, other things that I'm missing in here and stuff, but uh the last couple years, quite a few years now, I've been experiencing Stargate portals. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. I don't even really know what that is, but I was started to, I've always like seen a lot of sparkles and moving energies and kind of like I'm being worked on right before I go to sleep at night and stuff. Um, and some nights is different than others to where it's like really intense, like really a lot of stuff going on. So the one night I woke up or not woke up, I was going to sleep and I could just see this spinning funnel of energy, like almost like a tornado, but not a tornado, like going all the way up to my ceiling from like my abdomen, but it was literally taking up the whole room. But in this funnel of light it was white and it had blue flecks of turquoise and flecks of ruby pink diamondy color stuff, and it was beautiful. I'm like, wow, there's a lot going on in the energy field tonight. What's going on, And I'm just like in awe looking at this. Wow. Uh, it was like about 2 days later, I run across a video from Magenta Pixie. And she talks about the
Hmm.
nine, and the nine appear to her sometimes as light beings and sometimes as bird light beings, but they're part of her subconscious, but they're part of the God consciousness. She says, but they had a download about this Stargate portal, and it was the solstice that night. And they described every single color that I saw that night. And I was like, holy crap, I just experienced my first Stargate portal. What the heck does that mean? And what I'm finding out now, a lot of this is in the ancient Gnostic texts. The divine feminine was connected to God and the consciousness, and they actually open, I just learned this today, actually, it was pretty weird. They open up portals through them because they're connected to this source. So I gotta dig down deeper onto that. But yeah, so since then it's like only on certain days around the year, the last probably 5 years now or so, um I see these Stargate portals and every one is different. They're like I seen ones on the 10/10, so October 10th, the 11/11, November 11th, the 12/12. I've seen them on a couple different solstices now. I've seen them on um, Easter, two different Easters. I've seen them on the eclipse, the equinox. So they're always different. The eclipse looked like literally there's an eclipse going on within my body. Days prior to it was coming in, and days prior after it post the eclipse or yeah, eclipse. It was like literally an eclipse within my body. It was going back out. Um, some of them look real Hindu-y like patterns of light and just very quantum, sacred geometry stuff going on. Just real thick with energy, really intense, and they're only getting more intense. So I used to just see them, but now it's like I'm feeling them on my molecular structure, I guess. It's like so intense to where it feels almost like I'm tripping. I don't know how to explain it. But it's they're getting more physical. So something's going on to where these are really getting more physical within our body. I'm not just seeing it, but I'm feeling it. And it's pretty wild.
So
And the last one that was like that, I was praying to Jesus, and it I was actually singing. I never sing it going to bed, and I was singing to Jesus, and all of a sudden, I could see all the energy just take over my room, and then I could just. It was really, really thick. I didn't realize it till after it happened that it was on the 10/10 this last October 10th. So I was like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. It was a Stargate portal day also, because it was just so intense. It kind of spooked me, like, but yeah.
yeah, so that's what I have questions because I wonder if, like you said, okay, the divine feminine and these Gnostic texts talk about like using females as a portal. Like, are you being used to bring like light into this realm, or like, what do you have any hunch on what is actually your role in it?
No idea. I just know that I just ran across this random video today about how that they're they took out a lot of these texts because it was all about the divine feminine and basically the connection she has to God, and something about opening up portals, that they're like able to open up portals to this God consciousness.
Wow. I have a feeling that's something, I mean, you obviously are led to things for a reason in life. That's apparent. And this is another example of that. So I would say there's a lot of truth to that and what you're experiencing and bringing in that I think you might be a conduit to bring this light in or these God codes or source codes, whatever you want to call them, in at this important time right now when the planet it desperately needs that, frequency. So I'd say just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, that's a beautiful path that you've been on and that you are on, and yeah, I mean, it's very impressive. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to get into, or should we start wrapping this up?
Yeah,
Um,
well, I just like to say, let me look at my notes real quick. You know, the going into the number 17 movement, we'll call it, I realized how the courts and stuff are, a lot of these CPS across the nation are tied into the rings. Um, we as the people really need to work on doing what we can with what we have, and um, fighting what's going on. We got, data centers coming into our counties and taking over our land, our water, our resources. And if we don't start standing up to this stuff, we're not going to have anything in the next 20 to 30 years for our children. These data centers are sucking up the electric grid. They raise your electric and water bills up 75 to 80% or higher. They pump out 55 million gallons of water, a minimum of that a day. That's over a whole city of water in one day. And then they're going to try to pump the wastewater from them out back into our rivers, lakes, and streams, which have PFAs that cause cancer. So right now, in Ohio, we're fighting the EPA doing that to our water supply. Where I live, they're trying to bum rush this data center in. Our commissioners had a non-NDA with the company coming in, which is really treasonous because, you're supposed to be full transparency with the people, and they're not. And they were trying to do it before the 20 to 40, 30 days they're supposed to wait to have a hearing. They were trying to, do it before the people found out. We really got to be aware of what's going on in our cities right now. I know in Arizona where you're at, they're trying to do a bunch of stuff there. So I would really check your commissioners, see what they're doing. They're trying to put in a $5 million sewer line to be able to do this, even though the people already voted it down this week. We just had our hearing here. All the people, the people showed up, thank God, and put stuff on the record, and they had to vote it down because uh, one of the newest people added to their board, who was on the people side, figured out that some of the houses in this plot that they're trying to do it in would be surrounded by a data center if they put it there, like three different houses on three different parcels. would have been surrounded. And if you look, there's a Supreme Court case that says you can't do that. So he brought that on the floor of the hearing and pointed that out, and they had to vote no. And they were mad. The rest of the board, who was all for it, was like mad, kind of. You could tell some of them that they had to cancel the application to move forward with it. So now it still goes to our trustees and they still have to vote. And then there's talk about that the development company trying to come in can turn around and sue them, sue the township, sue the city, because I don't know what kind of contract they have with our commissioners, but yeah, they might be able to sue our commissioners or the city because of this. So this is all trespass upon the people. This is breach of trust with the people. This is stuff that this is part of disclosure that we have to start doing something about. You don't know, like, I didn't know I can cover, I don't know how many movements in history that I covered, but it's just taking one step at a time and walking in faith and letting your heart be your guidance system and following your heart as your compass to doing something about these things. And then you don't know the timelines and the stuff that you can do. A lot of people talk about, when they go to the other side, they don't realize, and have a near-death experience or something, they don't realize what they could have done while they were here and how much power they have. We have all the power, and you know, the power is within the people. We got to be the people, and we got to stand up for our rights. If we don't stand up for our rights, we don't have rights. And right now, there's just this total tyrannical poison. These things, even this data center stuff. It's noise pollution that would make you have to sleep in your basement. It's air pollution. It's light pollution. So these 5G and 6G lights, they turn up the gigahertz in these things, and they give you heart attacks and strokes and stuff. This is trespass upon the people. And, again, we have to do something, or we're not going to have anything.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a beautiful message. And I agree with, well, there's so many things you said that I agree with, but going back to the water, just here in Sedona, I just got a notice today, a letter saying, there, you know, this is not an emergency, but we found high traces of arsenic in the water supply over the last few months. It's been dealt with. Don't worry, you're okay. But if you're experiencing skin issues, rash, or blah, 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 could potentially even cause cancer. But they gave us the letter after the fact. After they didn't tell us like, hey, we detected this in the water. Stop drinking your water. Stop using your water. They like silently put out the fire and then let us know. And then now, we're dealing with whatever, that caused. But also, this is on the other side of that coin. What I appreciate about this area is that it's a dark sky community. They have restrictions on the light pollution. You can't have, it's super dark out here. It's scary dark out here at night. I mean, you can't hardly walk down the street through your neighborhood at night without, running into something. And every street light has to be pointed down. It can't be pointed up, and you have to have a yellow light, not a white LED light. So if the whole world did that, it would be so amazing. But yeah, those data centers that you're talking about, are these the AI data centers, or what data centers are you referring to specifically?
Well, they will see they have an NDA, so they won't even tell us. They said, oh, it's not going to be a data center. It's going to be a mega site, they're going to call it. Well, the mega site that they put in Indiana and the mega site that they put in Michigan, those were data centers. So they're trying to downplay the word and be like, oh, it's not that, it's a mega site. Well, what's a mega site? Define mega site. And then at this last hearing, oh, it's not intended to be a data center. Do you think we're stupid? You know?
Right,
So
right.
we don't even know the company. It could be Amazon or God knows, I don't know. There's so many of them now. So we don't even know. That's the sad part. There's no transparency. This is fraud. And yeah, and
Yeah.
I do have on my Republic page on my website, I have different ways that people are standing up. You can create a lawful assembly in your county. You can stand up with an affidavit process. I'm learning equity is the way to go too. So when constitutional law and their admiralty law court system doesn't work, you can go in under equity, but you gotta know what you're doing. Um, so, and I'm not very versed in equity, but these other things I am, and they have been working for people, and you can do it under the Constitution, and stand up with an affidavit. You can't harm the people. Stand on the Constitution and these things that our founding fathers came up with for a good reason, and we have to hold this a republic. We don't have a republic until we create one and hold our public servants to their oaths.
Right. Yeah,
A real
absolutely.
republic.
Yeah, well, thank you for one sharing all that, and then let everybody know one more time. Like I put all your links below, but where they can find your work and your website, social media, all that.
So you can find my website platform is awakenandunite.com. It's basically TV with purpose. So I got a lot of top whistleblowers on all the movements I've covered. You can also go to tvwithpurpose.com. It also goes to that, or you can go to amandajoanofheart.com. And so that all goes to the same site, really flesh through the different subject matter and the different pages. I have a lot on there, beautiful documentaries on, and just a lot being uncovered that we got to wake up to. Very important stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing all that. And I'm going to read this one comment here that I found interesting. Natasha says, some drugstores were caught dumping expired meds in our main river in the middle of the country. That is a huge fishing and boating and floating hotspot. So, I mean, yeah, we're swimming in it. It's getting into the fish, into the water. It's everywhere. Like this is just one layer of many things that they're doing that's weaponized against us. But uh, I love that you're providing sources and providing ways that people can help or do something about it, right? So, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you so much for everything that you do. This was amazing. You have some incredible stories. I truly do believe you're on a divine path, and nothing happens for by accident, and everything happens for a reason. And I just appreciate what you're doing. And yeah, if there's any last words you'd like to leave us with before we sign off.
No, thank you. I'm so proud of you for how far you have come and all the great stuff you guys are doing. You guys are really bobbing and weaving these timelines to create really awesome stuff. So I really
Bye.
love the events. I've had so much fun at your gatherings. Actually, those events were actually my favorite events. Out of all the things I've covered, the best ones were the UFO and disclosure movement events. So they're just so awesome. Thank you
Mm.
for all that. And your new documentary um, is out now. I'm really proud of you. You probably told it much better than me. I do have a little piece on the secret space program in my website, but yeah, you guys got it. You guys really did a lot more digging than I did on that.
Yeah, that one's been a long, thank you for one. Thank you so much for saying all that. And it's that one's been a long time coming, secret space program, something we've been covering for a while now. So it just kind of made sense because we didn't really, there's nothing out there on the streaming platforms that covers it properly. So that was our whole goal. Like we can do this stuff on our YouTube channel or Patreon all day. Our goal was to get it out there, and that's where it's on its way now. So like I said earlier, if people are interested in watching it, you can do so on our Patreon or on our website. Those links are below. But thank you so much, Amanda. This was amazing. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you guys all for being here this evening. We love you, and until next time, have a great evening. And if you want to join us in Hawaii, there's a few spots left. You can buy a ticket at journeytotruth.online, or you can get a virtual pass if you can't make it in person for only $55. We have a Telegram group on the website. The schedule's up on the website. Optional nightly UFO tours. There's a lot more. It just keeps building and building. So we're really looking forward to it. We would love to see you out there. And actually, Amanda was at the last Hawaii event in 2019 where this conference is modeled after. So It's at the same place that we went to, working with some of the same people, and I just kind of trying to recreate it, but better and on steroids, and let's just do it right, and it's just going to be amazing. So, good night, everybody. We love you, and until next time, have a great evening.